Hey, everybody. Welcome, David and Meredith here. I think it's cold where we both are.
It is, but warm in our hearts.
Warm in our hearts, especially with this gathering together. There's going to be a lot of warmth, and there's going to be quite a voyage with that warmth. But we're gonna dive into love stories, which I don't know if you know this about me, Meredith, but those are my favorite stories.
Would not have known.
Yeah, more than adventure stories, more than redemption stories. I love love stories. I seek them out. My favorite movies, my favorite books ultimately are love stories because it's actually a very complicated model. So I'm just going to give a quick overview of what we're going to do, and then we'll invite all of you who are watching to add a little something in the comments so that we can get some ideas from you, and then we'll go into a practice which you all will benefit from.
Great. And before you give us that overview, David, I just want to mention to all of you who are here or who are watching, hang in there with us, because when David and I were first talking about what's our February topic, of course, love and Valentine's Day came up. And the first knee-jerk response was, oh, enough Valentines. And so this is a spin on that, because we actually set the Valentine's love theme aside and then came back to it because we see the real potential in using the love story in a way that's really productive. So glad you're all here.
Productive, and the more that I investigated it, actually has precedent that that this isn't that we may be bringing it in a certain way, but love stories told to heal is actually there's a long history of that. And so what we're going to do is unpack the algorithm of the love story. What is it? What makes a love story unique? And then we'll turn that a little bit on its head, as the title suggests, and see how a love story can actually be a healing mechanism. So when we think of healing, we think of taking medicine, going to the doctor, going to a practitioner that will give you something that you can use for your healing. We're talking about the stories that surround that process. So with every medication, with every modality, with every therapy, all of that, there is some story component to it, so that we can understand what the medicine is, why we're taking this medicine. It's all ultimately story. So to employ a love story with the intention of healing is actually not that unusual. It's a framing what you're working with. When you say you need to heal, you heal from what? And then you can see that already there's a narrative there. So we're going to be exploring the healing process through the love story and creating our own love story in the process. If you hear something right now, all this talk of love stories has my 3 dogs just very excited, and they are chasing each other and climbing all over each other. And I've decided that they need to be in the same room as this event, because usually they sleep, not this one. So just letting you know what those sounds are. So those of you who are here right now, you have an opportunity to participate and put something in the comments that we'll use in a little bit. I would love for you to just toss in there. Well, you can say where you're coming from. We always love to hear that. Also, love stories that you like, or that you know, or that you recall. What important love stories, either important to you or humanity? Of course, Romeo and Juliet comes to mind, even though that's a tragic love story. I'm sure Harry Met Sally is, for our generation, one of those love stories that people just think of, whether you like it or not. It just comes up. So in the comments, we'd love for you to start to populate ideas when we, as we get into unpacking what the love story is. Off the top of your head, Meredith, some
Yeah.
that come to mind?
Well, love story that came to mind just now is The Gift of the Magi.
Oh, interesting.
Right? I wasn't expecting that one, but that just there's a mutuality there. There's the selflessness
Mhm.
there.
Yep.
And so it's not your typical love story arc,
Yep.
but that's what hit me when we were asking our participants to offer up a love story that comes to mind.
It's very broad, and there's different kinds. There is the classic romantic love story. I love the impossible love story. I love the love stories that are set up so that, even things like time will not allow these two individuals to be together. Like one's from one time and the other's in the other. One's alive and one is not alive. Things like that, where there's just an impossibility separating these two individuals, if that's the dynamic of the love story. And I go through all my favorite books, and most of them are that kind of dynamic. I just love it. I have yet to actually write one. I'm really excited about that possibility. So, there's a formula, and it's a pretty standard formula. There's no big surprises here. And those of you who are just coming, it's great to hear from you, and we love to hear where you're coming from. If you come up with ideas of love stories or love stories that you remember, love stories that come off the top of your head, pop them in the comments as well. Great. Yes, exactly. So we start with stasis, and then there is an upset, which is the meeting of the other. So there's an encounter. There are usually two individuals that encounter each other, meet, have an initial relationship, even if you wouldn't call it a relationship, have an encounter where they recognize each other. And this is what brings us out of stasis. Now we're leaning into a potential development of some kind of relationship. So that's basically step 1 and 2. Stasis to moving towards a relationship, and then there is something that keeps it from happening. Either it transforms into something else, or the impossible dynamic begins. Romeo and Juliet. Oh, we're from two warring sides. Oh, Harry met Sally. Oh, we don't actually like each other.
There's that.
And so, the older the love story, the more dramatic the things that are keeping them apart. So that's part 3. Is this can happen. And then there is, through the course of it, through the arc of the story, we get to it being really bad, and then there is the revelation, the transformation, the thing, in storytelling terms, the elixir, that makes it possible for them to have the relationship that it was meant to be. And then the last part is us experiencing what that reunion means, which is not necessarily a happy ending. In Romeo and Juliet, that reunion is in death, but in a lot of stories, that's and they lived happily ever after, and we enjoy that. In impossible love stories that I'm interested in, it's like an eternal recognition that they always were meant to be together, and that's enough, because the impossibility is so broad, but their elixir is bigger than the impossibility. That's ultimately what it needs to be. So some of the ones that are coming in, oh yeah, Princess Bride. I mean, come on. We all love Princess Bride. And it's like Mr. Rogers, it's eternal. We all just love it. It's such a great love story because the impossibility has so many different layers to it. And when it finally, they're able to have the relationship that we all knew they had to have, it's incredibly satisfying. What are some of the other ones that people have put in here?
Tristan and Isolde, The Notebook, The English Patient.
Yeah.
Away We Go, Under the Tuscan Sun. Oh, that
Yeah.
is a love story with yourself,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Which is ultimately where we're going here. And there's a few impossible ones like English Patient, possible love story.
Mhm,
Braveheart, ultimately an impossible love story that, can't happen in this story because of a death, but then reunited in death. So the algorithm is such that it's basically another version of the hero's journey.
mhm,
We start with normalcy, nothing going on, and then there's a reason for our hero to leave his or her home. And they leave, they're met with challenge, they overcome that challenge by finding the elixir, they return home. It's a restoration of wholeness.
mhm,
That's what the elixir is I need to grow. And in growing, I meet with challenge. And that challenge is a wound. That challenge is something's wrong with me. And then I find the healing elixir. I am restored to whole, but I'm older now. I'm wiser. I'm more capable.
mhm.
And watch any child after they've had an illness. They're a different kid. They've had this incredible experience with a fever or what have you, and they come back stronger. And I can say in my case, I've had a number of things that I've met with, and when I get better from it, I'm different. Something has changed through the experience of that. That's how we're going to use the love story. We're using it as a tool for healing. So I think we should start. What do you think?
I do. Let's just dive right in.
Great. Okay. So if you can, those of you who are with us right now, and if you're watching this later, just press pause and go get some paper, go get a pencil, something that you can write with, because you're going to make some notes. Okay. So the finding integrity, restoring yourself to whole. See if you can focus on some part of your life that is, would maybe be in the category of a wound, an illness, a condition, something that feels like it's something that you can heal from. So whatever you would use that term healing, see if there's a part of your life in which you could use that. And it doesn't have to be even a big thing. It can be, I don't know, a canker sore or something like that. But just something that is making it so that you don't feel whole. It's got your attention.
Mhm.
And so write it down. All right, good. And just write down some notes about this situation, this illness, this condition. It's good just to really kind of get a sense of the narrative of it. Like, when did it start? When did this happen? What does it look like now? That sort of thing. So just give kind of an arc of the situation. Okay. So you can see I'm doing this as well. Okay. That you can leave alone now. You're going to forget about that. If you've done tutorials with us before or courses with us, we set intentions and then we walk away from them. So walk away from that. And now we're going to focus in on the love story. So have two characters. For this purpose, this kind of love story has two characters. Pick two characters, whatever gender, and decide what kind of story you're going to do. You don't have to think about this. Don't think about the best one. Choose the one that first comes to mind. So, is this an animal story? Is this historical? Does this take place sometime in the past? Is this kind of like one of those old world profession fairy tales? Is this an adventure story? What is the setting? So just take a moment, choose.
And choose by, our 4 story steps. You can take a grand sweep, pay soft attention, and then check in with your affection. Don't think logically that this has to have some ending or that it needs to have any purpose. It doesn't have to be a logical choice, just whatever comes to you.
I did exactly what you said, Meredith. I scanned around. My eyes fell on Bucket of Paints. It's a story involving Renaissance painters.
I've got animals.
Okay.
There it is.
Great. Okay. So what's going to happen now is you're going to tell yourself a story. Don't worry about it. No one's going to hear this. And Meredith and I are going to go on mute, and you're just going to see us moving our mouths. Just try it wherever you are. And if you have to whisper for whatever reason, do that. But it's best if it be out loud. And you're just going to talk off the top of your head. You are not even trying to create a love story. All you're doing is describing these 2 individuals. Describe them, and then what is their first meeting? That's all you have to do. What's their first meeting look like? That's it. So we're going to take, 30 seconds, and you're going to do that. So I'm going to mute. Okay, great. So I have established my 2 characters. Now we are going to go back to your condition, injury, wound, health condition, whatever it is.
I would call it a pain point.
Pain point. Thank you. Much better. Mm-hmm. To whatever your pain point is. Focus on it. Notice how you feel around it. Just notice how the pain point is affecting you. Let yourself be surprised in how it's affecting you. But see if you can get somatic about it, and see if you can identify in your body where you're feeling the emotion and which emotion it is. Just take a moment and do that. Right. Okay. Now we're going to do a classic storytelling 4 steps practice, where you're going to do exactly what Meredith said before. Let your attention soften, scan about the room, and if you spot something or hear something or taste or smell or whatever, or even a thought, a feeling, notice the one that affects you the most similarly to what you just felt around your pain point. So you might look at something, notice it affects you in a similar way to your pain point, or hear something.
And just for clarification, when we're paying soft attention, it doesn't need to be strictly in the visual field.
Right.
It can be a sound, it can be an aroma, it can be a tactile experience.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it'll really, don't make sense of it. Mm-hmm. If you look at an iron and it reminds you of, whatever, that's it.
Yeah, I'm hearing the heater. That's what it's going to be.
Great. Okay. Okay. All right. And so you've identified the thing. Now, what you're going to do is return to the story now And it doesn't have to be about that thing, but let that thing that got your attention and affected you in a way that is similar to your pain point, let that influence your story. And it's going to influence the story as the challenge. It's going to heighten the challenge of what's going on. All right. So it's already registering with you, Meredith. We're gonna silence and just tell that part of the story. Whew.
Ooh,
Mine went dark.
right. Can we move out of this? But
Yep.
actually, this is where there's real juice right here.
Yeah.
Even
Yep.
though my two animals are being torn asunder, there's juice.
And just let it be whatever it is. Don't worry about trying to solve anything at this point. But what you're going to do is do a similar thing now and imagine yourself on the other side of this pain point. So whatever it is resolved as however you want to define a resolution. It's no longer got your attention in the same way. Healed, whatever it is. But get on the other side of this pain point and imagine that happening and how that feels. So take a moment just to kind of check in around that.
When I go to the chiropractor and she does this energy work with me, she uses the languaging, see yourself in a state of ease.
State of ease. Nice.
Imagine the best outcome, she says,
Mm-hmm.
and then imagine yourself now in a state of ease.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. Along with that ease is a sense of strength and energy and power is what I had. Okay, so you're going to do the same thing now, and scan about the room, and whatever associates itself with that feeling, note it. Okay, you know what we're going to do. Whatever you found, let it influence your story as part of the elixir in the story. So this is the shortest story ever, little tiny bits, but let it be the elixir. Let it affect whatever, the challenge is between these two characters. Let it be a part of the other side of this challenge and how they're able to find each other. So go on mute. Yep.
Should it say just these two characters, or can other characters come into the story? Are you really wanting us to stay with just these two characters?
Oh, yeah, other characters can definitely come in, but the challenge between these two characters, the elixir will come however it needs to, and these two characters will overcome that. Okay, going on mute. keep going, finish the story. Don't be afraid of it being a tragic ending. That's okay. If that's where the story needs to go, go with it. This is not about bad news. You'll see what this means in a moment. But let the story complete in wholeness, in resolution. We overcame the challenge. The elixir was delivered, and let it end how it needs to end. I'm gonna mute again. Okay. So bring it to a close. And before you start having ahas and recognition and, oh, I get it about the story, here's the thing about stories like this. They're like dreams. So you may or may not have heard this about dreams, but there's a philosophy, and I believe it's true, that everything in the dream is you. Every single character in a dream is you. Even if you're dreaming about your partner in the dream, this is not about your partner. Your partner is representing a part of you. You in the dream are representing a part of you. The dog that's chasing you in the dream is a part of you. And I would love for you to see yourself in every single one of these characters, especially the two lovers that are finding each other. So the dynamic between them is a dynamic you have with yourself. The challenge you have is a challenge you have with yourself. And the elixir is something that you are giving to yourself. So it's all you. Try that on for a moment and then move through your story again and see if there's some useful bit of information or agency that could be a part of your healing protocol. So look at your notes, consider that, and as an example, my two Renaissance painters were in competition. She was the better painter. He was getting the attention. He liked the attention. He knew she was a better painter. Didn't like her. She didn't like him. She knew she was a better painter. And as he was working one day, he hurt himself and with the tools that he was working with, but he didn't want, they were working next to each other nearby. He didn't want her to know. He was too proud. And the wound festered, he got really sick. And he continued to not want her to know that he wasn't well until he just couldn't, just passed out and went into like a coma, went into like a deep sleep and was out for a long time. But when he woke up, she was there and she had been taking care of him, and her taking care of him is what changed things. He didn't want to be a painter. That's not what he wanted to do. And she wanted to be a painter, and she's the better painter. And here she is putting everything on hold, taking care of him. And so they're together, and the elixir was just allowing sleep, lots and lots of sleep. just allowing that, making space for the sleep. That's what I'm getting right now. And it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. So Meredith, you are welcome to talk about your process. And those of you who are with us, we would love for you to say about your experience, what sort of story you told yourself that we could share, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Yes, please do share freely to the degree that you're comfortable. We'd love to explore the stories that came up for you as well. What struck me in my story, again, just a very rich experience, David. Thank you. One thing I would like to just say about how we work here is we try to go to those places where we can find personal transformation in creative and fun ways. And so this was an example for me of how I got some real healing, and it kind of came through the back door. Who would have known that a butterfly and a rabbit and a big bear could tell me that the elixir for my pain are the 4 kinds of Buddhist love: loving kindness, compassion, what we would call, it's a joy, it's a joyful, uh, a sympathetic joy, and the 4th being equanimity. For me, this pain point that I have, which is a strong one, I would just went right for it. Very strong for me. What came out of it in the end was what the part of it that is mine is the tincture for the pain and for this experience that I'm having is in wishing myself and others wellness, safety, love, happiness. This is loving kindness. The second kind of love then is that compassion. Your suffering is my suffering. My suffering is your suffering. This unification, whatever I'm feeling, someone out there is feeling. I'm not alone in it, nor are you alone in yours. And then this sympathetic joy, where we truly wish the other well. Truly, even those that we might have some antipathy toward, if we can truly wish others well, there's this stepping out of our own pain into hoping that others can have more joy. And then this equanimity, this 4th kind of love, is then abiding by our feelings, but not letting them take hold of us. Where we can really have some sense of agency and partnership with whatever arises. So there's my elixir. So thank you to the bunny and the butterflies and the bear.
Beautiful. Powerful. We've got a couple elixirs that are coming through. Elixir was the sunset. So needing to create space for the present moment. Beautiful. A beautiful sunset is what I'm seeing. Mine centered around a relationship of an artist and a muse. So it was interesting to apply the all is self principle as the muse and the artist are one. Yes, they are. And someone else, a lot of people going for the artist thing, chose historical Simonetta Botticelli and Vespucci, Renaissance painters. Go for it.
Yeah, and this muse and the artist, very beautiful image there. And yeah.
We are we're going to be doing another webinar for members. The Story Steps Education membership has another webinar that we're going to be doing where we're really taking up healing in the relationship to storytelling, because there's a lot of healing modalities that are very conscious of the storytelling power. that's involved in the healing process. So we're going to be doing that when is that? Is that next week?
Well, right, this Thursday we have the Fool training, and that was when I was thinking about the muse and the artist, that struck me with regards to our Fool's training, which is
Right. Yes.
the training that we're finishing up this week. And then next week, the 18th is, I guess it's the 18th. I have to look at a calendar. But it's the fourth Thursday of the month.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
And the actual the bard, which is what we're taking up in the Fool's training, is very much that's the healing Fool.
Oh wait, no, next week. Sorry, tomorrow there's no members webinar because this is it. The 18th is the Fool's training, and then the 25th is when we're coming back to the healing modalities.
But there'll be more healing is going to be happening for members.
Yes, we decided February was the month for healing. Love, absolutely, and healing through love. So we have here the story. This is from another participant. The story was an adventure with a selfish friend, and the elixir for my pain was yoga in a place of warmth and surrounded by plants.
Mm-hmm.
It made me realize that so much of my physical pain comes from not taking care of myself. I see that what I have been feeling is jealousy that she is able to prioritize her health and well-being. It made me realize that I do need to put on my own oxygen mask first.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And in this first kind of love, in the Buddhist modality that I was just sharing with loving kindness, we start with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Happy, may I be safe, may I be well, may I have ease and be loved. And then we extend that outward. So there it is, oxygen mask first.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to read, just struck me, let me just find this for a moment if you don't mind.
Sure.
The quote, my signature in my email. I think it's the best relationship advice that there is. Good old Mary Oliver. So here we are. And what do I risk to tell you this, which is all I know? Love yourself, then forget it, then love the world.
Mm-hmm. I think we end there.
Yes, love yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and love the world.
If you're watching this in the future, feel free to put comments here. We'll respond. And if you are coming to this through How to Story, do consider joining us on the Facebook group. There's a lot of amazing conversations that are happening over there. And if you're coming to us from YouTube, the same. So Story Steps Education, the group over there. And if you haven't considered becoming a member to Story Steps Education, do so. We've got quite a community together there.
Yeah, and we have some good fun, and we do some good work in personal transformation at the same time. Thank you all for joining. Thank you so much. David, thank you.
Thank you. All right, little butterfly. Until next time. Bye, all.